Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. They don't warn you about the smell. Not really. Not the way they should. People assume roadkill just stinks like garbage or rot, but that's not even close. It's not one smell. It's layers. First, there's the coppery tang of fresh blood, sweet and sharp, like metal soaked in syrup. Then comes the wet moss stench of ruptured guts. Sometimes you get the acidic, nostril-burning waft of stomach acid bubbling in the open air. But the worst part is the smell that doesn't hit you right away. The slow, creeping sourness of meat going off in the heat. It rides the wind like a whisper. You don't even realize it's there until it's sunk into your clothes. I've been a roadkill cleanup worker for nearly 8 years, long enough to stop gagging, long enough to recognize a hit and run by the pattern of fur in the gravel. I've scraped porcupines off guardrails with snow shovels. I've lifted deer off the pavement so torn apart it looked like someone dropped a sack of red soup. I've found cats still warm, dogs still twitching. But I'd never seen a raccoon stand up after I bagged it. That night started normal, quiet, too quiet. Midnight shift. Route 77. Locals call it Whistler's Bend, because the wind sings through the trees like a ghost choir. It's a twisted stretch of 2-lane highway that snakes through the deep hills outside Boone County, West Virginia. Not much out there but collapsed barns, rusted mailboxes, and the occasional flashlight eye glint from a possum or fox. No cell phone reception for 12 miles. The kind of road that feels wrong, even during the day. I clocked in late, as usual, grabbed my keys, the hazard lights, and the usual gear, gloves, bagging poles, lime powder, industrial trash bags, my thermos. The sky was the color of old bruises, and the moon looked dull, like someone had smeared fingerprints across it. "Be careful out there," Sharon said. She runs dispatch, smokes too much, and wears Halloween earrings year-round. I offered a tired nod. Ain't nothing out there but dumb animals and dumber drivers. Still, she lit another cigarette. Just, watch your mirrors. That stuck with me. It was already bad by the time I hit mile marker 131. A coyote, legs broken, belly burst open, fur soaked black, was lying on the yellow line. Steam rose from its stomach like breath. I noted the GPS tag, flipped on the work lights, and began the cleanup. Its mouth hung open, but the tongue wasn't lolling. It was curled, almost clenched. I tried not to look at the eyes. They were dry already, but they hadn't clouded over yet. The bag fought me, always does when it's a larger animal. It's like trying to shove a corpse into a sleeping bag. The weight of it shifted in strange ways, like something inside was still moving. Just nerves, I told myself. Residual twitches, death spasms. I'd seen deer piss themselves 15 minutes after they bled out. Still, it lingered. That feeling, like the body didn't want to be contained. I got it sealed and limed the patch. The blood had seeped into the cracks of the road. It always does. That's the worst part about old highways. So many places for things to sink into. Then I found the note. It was stuck under my wiper blade, torn from a spiral notebook. A rough, handwritten scrawl. They feed through what's already dead. Burn what you kill. No signature. No tracks in the gravel. Just a note, and the silence pressing against the windows like a held breath. I thought it was a prank. Maybe a sick joke from the local kids or some backwoods meth freak. I tossed it into the glove box and kept moving. Near the bend, I stopped for a squirrel, or what used to be one. It was flattened like a cartoon, spine snapped, skull partially popped. The kind of kill you don't scoop, you peel. I got to work, grumbling, reaching with the scraper. That's when I heard the noise. Click, soft, wet, almost like a chatter. I froze, looked up. Nothing. The trees swayed gently. A raccoon's eyes glinted from a bush, watching. No big deal. Happens all the time. Roadkill attracts scavengers. They wait for me to leave. Then they move in. But the raccoon didn't look hungry. It looked focused. I blinked. It was gone. Okay. Enough coffee for tonight. I finished the job and climbed back into the truck, headlights sweeping the dark road ahead. I felt watched. Couldn't explain it. Just that feeling like someone's about to knock on the window but never does. I started driving, and that's when I saw it. In the rearview mirror, in the pale cone of the work lights, the raccoon I had scraped up 20 minutes earlier was standing. Its head lolled to one side, jaw slack, tongue dangling. The spine was wrong, curved too far, like someone bent a wire hanger. Its paws twitched and stepped, legs moving like they were drunk. A loop of intestine dragged behind it like a leash. It didn't look alive. It looked worn, like something was inside, trying to remember how to walk. I slammed the brakes, threw the truck into reverse. But by the time I backed up to where I'd seen it, there was nothing. No raccoon, no drag trail, just the empty road humming under my tires. The bag was still sealed in the bin. That much I confirmed. I opened it reluctantly. The coyote was there, bloated now, like it had started to gas, but unmoving. I heard rustling in the trees again. Watched, always watched. I drove the rest of the shift with every window rolled up, music off, and my eyes flicking between the road and the mirrors. Every silhouette of a tree trunk looked like a figure. Every patch of roadkill looked like it might flinch. I told myself it was just nerves, fatigue. I'd seen worse. Hell, I'd seen a raccoon crawl with its back legs flattened once. It wasn't dead, just broken. But that thing I saw, that raccoon wasn't trying to escape. It was being piloted. I didn't sleep after that shift, didn't even try. I sat on the edge of my bed with the blinds drawn, my boots still on, staring at the crack beneath my bedroom door. I kept imagining something slipping under it, something wet, something dragging itself forward by claws or fingers or whatever it had for limbs now. The image wouldn't go away. When the morning came, it brought no comfort. Just light through the dusty curtains and the sound of flies tapping the windows. One of them buzzed in circles, headbutting the glass over and over, like it forgot it had wings. I kept thinking about the raccoon in the mirror. The way it moved didn't look right. It wasn't twitching like an animal. It was learning. That's what chilled me, like something inside was practicing. And that damn note. Burn what you kill. I checked the glove box again, hoping I'd hallucinated the whole thing. Nope. It was still there, curled at the edges, the graphite smudged like it had been written with a shaking hand. Who left it? Why me? I reported for duty again that night, even though every nerve in my body screamed at me to quit. Sharon raised an eyebrow when I walked in. "You look like hell," she said, sipping black coffee from her pumpkin mug. Didn't get any rest? Nightmares, I lied. She nodded slowly, eyes lingering a second too long. Same route? Yeah. She hesitated. Be careful at Whistler's Bend. I frowned. You said that yesterday. I know, she whispered. Just be careful. That's when I noticed it. Her pumpkin mug had a hairline crack down the side, a fracture like a spider web. The detail stuck with me for some reason, like everything was just slightly off now, even the little things. By 10:47 p.m., I was back on the road, headlights cutting through dense fog. Route 77 looked worse than usual, damp, swollen from a sudden afternoon storm. Dead leaves glued themselves to the pavement like scales. I hadn't driven 2 miles when I saw the first one. A buck, big, heavy, probably 10 points, judging by the antlers shattered across the shoulder line. Its chest was torn open, and its ribs were bare, gleaming white in the light like fangs. No drag marks, no other car around. But the eyes were open. Glass marbles, clouded over, yes, but not lifeless, like it was aware of me. I set the parking brake and stepped out, slow and cautious, as if it might rise. Part of me expected it. I circled the buck carefully, shovel in hand. No movement, but when I crouched to check the underside, just out of curiosity, I found something moving inside. I flinched back. Beneath the exposed ribs, something twitched, a coiling motion, slow and deliberate. Not maggots, not gas expansion. It was like watching a snake adjust in its sleep. Then I heard it. Scritch, 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 inside the meat. I backed away, heart hammering, grabbed the gasoline can from the truck bed, and poured it over the carcass without thinking. My hand shook, and some of it splashed onto my boots. I didn't care. I lit a flare and dropped it onto the buck's chest. The reaction was instant. The flames caught and leapt up, orange and violent, and from inside the fire, something screamed. Not animal, not human. A noise that didn't belong in this world. A pressure in my skull, like my ears were folding inward. A sound that couldn't exist, but there it was, pouring out of the burning body. I stepped back and almost slipped on the wet asphalt. The thing inside writhed. I caught a glimpse through the flame, thin, white cords, like overgrown nerves, wriggling as they burned. They curled and twisted like worms in acid. The smell was worse than anything I'd ever known. Like charred fur and rotten eggs, but behind it, something floral, sickly sweet. Wrong. By the time the fire died, there was nothing left but black bone and ash. I sat in the truck for 20 minutes after that, shaking, crying maybe. I don't remember. Only when the call came over the radio did I remember I was still technically working. Dispatch to 412. We got a trucker called in a hit near marker 135. Said the thing was still crawling when he drove off. Still crawling. Of course it was. Marker 135 was just 3 miles up the road, past the bend, past the burnt grass still steaming in my mirrors. The crash site wasn't hard to find. Blood smeared across both lanes like something was dragged. A busted cooler lay on its side in the ditch. Beer cans spilled everywhere. No sign of the driver. I followed the trail. It led down a slope into a narrow patch of trees where the grass died suddenly. It wasn't brown. It was black. The air got colder there. No breeze, no night bugs. Just a silence that pressed against your chest like water pressure. And then I saw it. Not the animal. Not at first. I saw the pile, a heap of carcasses in the hollow under the embankment. Deer, raccoons, coyotes, owls, possums, even a goddamn black bear. Dozens of them. Some looked ancient, fur falling out in patches. Others were fresh, all of them arranged like offerings, and they were moving, twitching in slow unison. A breath, a pulse, a heartbeat shared between corpses. One of the deer lifted its head. Its eyes glowed. Not yellow, not red, white. Then the others began to rise slowly, like marionettes untangled after a long sleep, their bodies bent at impossible angles. Bones groaned, skin sloughed off in strings. They didn't snarl, they didn't growl, they just stared. At me, and something else rose from the center of the heap. A mass. Thick, rotted pelts fused together, antlers melted into wings, eyes blinking from places eyes shouldn't be. Beneath it all, tendons like roots, pale and writhing, binding the corpses into a single heaving shape. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. It stared at me with 100 eyes and smiled without a mouth. I don't remember driving home. I must have made it. The truck was in my driveway, its hood still warm, and my boots were caked in ash and something slick that wouldn't dry. But the hours between the creature in the hollow and the moment I opened my trailer door were just missing. I smelled like burnt hair and damp fur. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. There was a smear of blood on my doorframe, not mine, fresh. I spent the next 20 minutes pacing in the kitchen with the lights off, my back pressed to the sink, clutching a crowbar I'd never used before. The walls felt closer. The silence outside was deeper than silence should be. Even the crickets had gone quiet. I couldn't tell if I was in shock or if something had followed me home. And honestly, I didn't want to know which would be worse. At some point before dawn, I dug the notebook out of the glove box. The one with the message, "Burn what you kill." I flipped through the pages and found more than I expected. Scribbles, symbols, rough sketches of the same root-like tendrils I saw writhing inside the carcasses. Most of the words were fragmented, panicked, like they'd been jotted in a frenzy. Not parasites, not worms, not alive, not dead. Connective, feeding conduit, a mycelium of flesh. Burial mound under Route 77, cut open when they paved the highway. Something woke up. The body dies, the roots remember. It sees through them, all of them. One entry was dated 2 years ago. Another was dated 3 days before I got this job. That's when it clicked. Whoever wrote this was someone like me, a cleanup worker, probably my predecessor, probably dead, or worse. I didn't go back to work the next night, didn't call in either. I sat on my porch with a shotgun across my lap, watching the woods. The moon was high, but no light touched the trees, just shadow upon shadow. That's when Gus pulled up, beat-up blue truck, dented fender, stinking of gasoline and stale fear. He didn't say a word at first, just stood at the bottom of the steps with that look people get when they've already seen too much to explain. "You saw it," I said. He nodded once, real slow. "I burned a deer," I whispered.
"Not enough,"
he replied. We sat in silence for a while. The woods creaked behind us like old bones settling.
"I thought it was me losing it,"
Gus finally said.
"until I saw that bear crawl out of the ditch with its head turned all the way around, dragging a possum stitched to its chest like a tumor."
He rubbed his hands together, the skin raw and peeling.
They move like puppets, but it ain't strings, it's roots. Inside, wrapping around the bones, pulling, twisting, like it's trying to fit itself into a shape it doesn't understand yet.
We both looked at the road stretching past the tree line. Route 77,
I tried to burn the site last year.
Gus said.
Didn't work. The thing moved. The hollow's just one mouth. There's more. I think the whole stretch of highway is hollow underneath.
Like a lung, like a throat. I couldn't sleep after that. I couldn't even sit still. I started researching everything I could. Appalachian folklore, cryptid sightings, settler journals, anything tied to Boone County. Most of it was half-baked backwoods superstition. But one name kept surfacing again and again, like rot under peeling wallpaper. The hollow spirit. A creature of rot and memory. A thing that doesn't feed on flesh, but through it. It doesn't kill to eat. It uses bodies to reach further. Every dead thing is a doorway. Every carcass another cable in its network. One article, buried deep in a university archive, claimed the land beneath Route 77 had once been a ceremonial pit used by pre-colonial tribes to bury animals killed in spiritual rituals, an offering to something they feared more than they could name. They believed it lived in the soil, feeding through the death of others. The tribe was wiped out by disease before they could pass on the full story. The pit was never marked. The highway was built right over it, paved with blood and bone. 2 nights later, I got a call. Not from work, not from anyone in town. Blocked number. No voice, just a sound. Scritch, 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 like claws dragging across old bone. Then the line went dead. That night, I saw Gus again, but not at my door. I found his truck abandoned off the road near marker 132. Driver's door open, blood in the seat. A trail of drag marks led into the trees. I followed, against every instinct, against the warning ringing in my skull like church bells at midnight. The air was cold. The wind smelled like mildew and meat. The trail led to another hollow. This one wasn't empty. I found Gus, or what was left of him. His body was split open like a flower. Roots burst from his chest, curling around a raccoon and a fox. His face twitched, still alive somehow, but his eyes were gone, just sockets stuffed with moss. His voice was a gurgle of blood and dirt. He looked at me. He saw me, and he smiled. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the truck, and even then, I didn't drive. I screamed, slammed my fist into the wheel, cried, threw up. Then finally started the engine and drove until the sun broke over the hills like a bloody yoke. The thing in the hollow isn't just growing. It's evolving. And it knows who I am now. There's a difference between fear and certainty. Fear is what you feel when you hear a noise in the dark. Certainty is knowing that something made it and that it's coming for you. I didn't report Gus's body, didn't call the police, didn't take pictures. What would I say? Hey, there's a human flower growing in the woods, stitched together with possum corpses and deer lungs. Also, the roots in his chest are breathing. Even if someone believed me, even if they drove out there and saw it with their own eyes, what could they do? Arrest a pile of corpses? Build a jail out of rebar and holy water? No. This thing didn't belong in a cell. It didn't belong in a textbook or a headline or a file buried in some dusty evidence room. It belonged in fire. So I did what the note said. I burned what I could. The next night, I returned to the hollow with 6 gallons of gasoline, every flare I had, and a half-mad prayer rattling in my head. The truck's bed was stacked with roadkill I'd collected over the last month. Every bloated raccoon, twisted coyote, and pancake flat opossum I'd ever bagged and stuffed into the departmental freezer. I wasn't taking chances. If they were doorways, then I was going to slam them all shut. The road was empty, moonless, windless. The trees leaned inward like they were listening. I pulled up to the bend near marker 137 and turned off the engine. Nothing moved. Not at first, but I could feel it, vibrating through the gravel, like a drumbeat buried under the pavement. The ground wasn't dead. It was breathing. I dragged the cooler to the edge of the hollow, opened it, and dumped the corpses into the pit like a sacrifice. The stench was overwhelming. Something in the pile twitched. I think it was a dog, but I didn't wait to see if it rose. I poured the first can of gas in a slow circle, hands trembling, lips murmuring nonsense. Not prayers, not really. Just broken pieces of words I remembered from childhood, from nightmares, from dreams I forgot until now. I struck the first flare. It hissed to life, violent, bright. I threw it in. The flame hit the carcasses with a whoomp, and for a moment, it felt like I'd won. Fire licked across the bodies, curling over bones, igniting skin, consuming fur and fat and rot, a heat so strong it buckled the air. Then came the scream. A pressure in my chest, my vision blurred, blood filled my mouth, not from injury, from sound. I dropped to my knees, ears ringing, retinas pulsing with every psychic shriek. The pile moved, bodies sloughed away from the center as something stood up, not separate from the corpses, but made from them, a creature taller than any man. Its legs were deer, its torso a bear's ribcage bent backward. A chain of raccoon skulls formed its spine, and where its head should have been, there was a mask of bark, smooth, vertical, split down the middle like a wound. Steam poured from the crack, as if it breathed pain. The roots came next, hundreds of them, white, thread-like, glowing faintly like fungal veins under flesh. They snaked into the gravel, into the trees, into the dead things burning around it. It didn't scream again. It spoke, not with words, with pressure, with memory. Images spilled into my head. A road built atop a grave, machines ripping up ancient earth, spilling something that should have stayed buried. Wildlife dying in numbers that fed the hunger. The slow awakening of something old, something made of remembrance and rot, and me, standing there. Fire starter, final meal, witness. It wanted me to see, to understand. This wasn't an infestation. This was evolution. The road wasn't cursed. It was the creature's spine. Each mile of asphalt, a vertebra, every kill, a neuron, every scavenger that fed on the dead, a conduit. It had built a nervous system from our waste, and now it was ready to move. I ran, not out of fear. There was no fear left. Only instinct. I dropped the remaining gas cans behind me and threw the flares one by one. Each explosion bought me seconds. Roots shrieked in the fire. The sky turned black with ash. I didn't stop until I reached the truck. Didn't stop even after I drove through 2 fences and a mailbox. Didn't stop until I reached the county gas station and collapsed at the pump, half sobbing, half laughing, covered in soot and blood. I never went back. The official report listed a landslide as the cause of road closure along Route 77. Sinkhole repair, standard geological activity, nothing to see here. The hollow was paved over, The entire stretch fenced off with warning signs, but I still drive past sometimes, from a distance. And every now and then I see the ground pulse just beneath the gravel, a ripple like something dreaming in its sleep, waiting for another kill, another doorway, another feeder line. And if I listen hard enough, I swear I can hear something clicking beneath the tires. Scritch, scritch, scritch.